Jesus allows polygamy in the New Testament. Where am I getting this from? The Old Testament, okay, I can see that and then be like, okay, yeah, David and everybody knows about his son had 700 wives, and Abraham had 4, and then you got Jacob had 4. The guy only 4 chapters into the the Old Testament had 4 wives, Lamech or whatever. So what's going on? Jesus in the New Testament, though. That's a new one. Jesus died on the cross. The New Testament? Polygamy? No. This guy's off his nut. Well, it does. Matthew chapter 25 refers to a parable or story, which is basically the same as saying, a parable is like saying this CD. And I use the CD as an example to reference God, or the way a lot of people like to think of God, as being circular, without a beginning or without an end. That's a parable. Something I took from the real world, namely the CD, and used it to explain something divine. This parable refers to 10 women and says that they were all virgins, and says that they were waiting for one bridegroom. 10 women, one bridegroom. The story is very detailed. It says that the bridegroom doesn't come for a long time, and that the women who were prepared for this possibility have enough oil for their lamps. And the women who are not prepared for this possibility, if the bride taking so damn long, don't have enough. So they urge the bridegrooms to give them some more oil, and they don't, saying that they might not have enough for themselves then. But they tell them to go out and go buy to the market and get some. They do, they come back. But the other 5 virgins are already gone because the bridegroom already came. The bridegroom! And they're in the building where they have sex. Well, the 5 virgins come pounding on the door that didn't have enough oil at the time, and they get the response, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Because you weren't ready. Okay. Moral of the story from the Christian's perspective is that some people aren't going to be ready when Jesus comes back to rapture his church. And for those of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because rapture isn't even in the Bible, talks about Jesus coming back to rescue the church from the world of sin and being gay, evidently, and all that. So, where am I getting this polygamy thing? Where did Jesus talk about it? One bridegroom. 10 virgins. 10. Nobody in the crowd seemed to have a problem with this, and Jesus didn't seem to have a problem with it either. One man, 10 virgins. WTF? See, this is what happens when you try and take verses out of the Bible and put them in a little box, put a little bow on it, and say, here you go, welcome to the 21st century, where gays aren't allowed, black slavery is allowed, and oh yeah, polygamy is allowed. Laws have to change, beliefs have to be adapted to 21st century. You can't have a first century deity's beliefs in a 21st century culture. If Jesus came today and he started talking about the sheep and the goats and people being pulled out of wells and all this other kind of nonsense, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about, man? What WTF does this have to do with my iPod? Where the hell am I going to get speakers that work digitally with my sound system? Oh wait, that's happening today. Churches around the world are closing down because they're not changing and adapting their faith to a 21st century society. Now, there are some churches that are. There are some churches that are allowing gay marriage. There are some churches that realize that the polygamy reference isn't part of today's society and never could be. God, the problems it would cause. They're not interested in having slaves. Okay? For crying out loud, when you take the Bible in total context, you have all these little problems. You have gay people like myself who came out of the strong fundamental Christian movement, and now we're in the progressive movement, or what the bigots try to call the liberal Christian. Progressive. Moving on. You have these verses that come to mind in our minds, and we're like, man, we were taught this from a young age. Why is this not being used? Why aren't there Christians out there with signs protesting for polygamy? Oh, I can see the signs now. God says 10 to 1. This is the way marriage was taught for 5,000 years, and we must uphold it as the only way to marry. I should have 10 more women. I should have 10 more husbands. Oh my God. The anarchy, right? I mean, do they all get the right to have the Social Security? How the hell do you divide up? What if you have 10 people in the hospital bed? I mean, should we expand the rooms? Do they have a lottery on who's going to have sex that night? Does the poor guy have to sleep with all 10 that day? Do you go by a weekly schedule? And then wait a minute, what about the women's rights? Do women then get 10 men? So 1 woman for 10 men. It's fair, right? So 1 woman has 10 men, 1 man has 10 women. You got 6 million kids. Who the hell are they? I don't know. What's this one's name? That's number 5. You know what? And then he gets 10 women. You overpopulation of the planet, people? You know, we're already at 6.1 billion. But if you're gonna live for a Christian world in the 21st century, like Pat Robinson and all those other crazies, you have to allow it. And not just allow it, that's the way God wanted it. For 5,000 years, polygamists have been allowed to be a family. I'm not buying it. And I'm definitely not buying that the Bible takes 8 verses and you take them out of context and you say, well, homosexuals aren't going to enter the kingdom of heaven. That's in 1 Corinthians, by the way. You should know, as Christians who study the Bible, meditate on it, that the 16th century Bible didn't even exist with the word homosexual in it. It was added later, in the 1700s. They didn't even know what the hell to call it. Then they called it sodomy. Before that, they called it feminism. Wait a minute. Those are like 3 different things. Oh, what do we do now? Oh my God. Wait a minute. Feminism was talking about idol worship in front of idols. Sodomy was talking about a total rape. And being homosexual is talking about gay love. Oh no. Well, let's just call them all the same thing. I'm sure Jesus will figure it out in the end. Yeah, he will. He's going to send the bigots. God. Go home. Go home. So I have no problem at all being gay and being Christian. Because I'm not a conservative, right-wing nut who takes every word out of the Bible literally. I'm a progressive. Thanks for watching. And I hope this opens your eyes a little bit to not take the Bible so damn literal.